after 4 weeks, CreGAAtine increased muscle creatine stores by up to 16.9%. That's 8.5 times more than you'd get with monohydrate alone. So the muscles and neurons with higher creatine stores show better ATP regeneration, improved muscle contraction, greater fatigue resistance without any of the side effects, and even all muscle group delivery. In the brain, CreGAAtine boosts creatine by 3.9 times in gray matter, which is nearly twice as much in the white matter compared to monohydrate. So for those seeking cognitive resilience, brain protective qualities, this is a game changer. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Kris Gethin Podcast. I'm your host, of course, Kris Gethin. So today we're going to embark on a deep scientific journey. You're going to spend some time with me where I break through the supplement tradition that we all know as creatine. So as we know, well, if you're as old as me, you'll know all the renditions that creatine has gone through. We've seen creatine in liquid. We've seen creatine ethyl esters. We've seen creatine HCl. And I'd say like the latest and greatest thing, of course, is that delivery mechanisms, whether it be in a liquid, whether it be in a gummy or a chew, is something called CreGAAtine, and that is creatine monohydrate combined with guanidino acidic acid, and there's B vitamins in there as well. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. So I'm going to break down like the bioenergetics of this, the cellular physiology, brain health, practical protocols that kind of separate CreGAAtine to the monohydrate, and why CreGAAtine is kind of unmatched when it comes to performance, cognitive resilience, amongst other things. So let's set the stage for this, shall we? So what is creatine? Well, it's a molecule that was discovered over 180 years ago, would you believe, recognized as the most evidence-based ergogenic aid in sports nutrition. And, standard creatine monohydrate saturates the muscles to enhance ATP, or adenosine triphosphate regeneration, kind of boosts that short-term strength for explosive power, sprints, and of course, muscle size. It's also involved in brain health and cellular energy turnover. And we're hearing more and more of this research coming to fruition over recent years. And now we're hearing about it helping with bone density as well. And, but as research has evolved, we are seeing some limitations in monohydrates bioavailability, absorption, and systemic distribution, especially in the brain. And this is becoming clearer and clearer. So let's start by honoring creatine monohydrate's reputation, though. It is the gold standard for most users. And regular use boosts muscle phosphocreatine stores. It supports high-performance training, aids in lean mass. And most dosing strategies rely on saturating muscle stores, since skeletal muscle can make its own creatine as well. But let's talk about some of the limitations. And I mentioned before the absorption. So it's absorbed almost exclusively through the sodium chloride dependent creatine transporter, or CRT, or some people refer to it SLC6A8. And this single pathway quickly saturates, so limiting further uptake into the cell. So let's say if you're a non-responder, it's likely that this transporter will be maxed out or genetically less active. And then let's go on to the digestive side effects, and this is where I come in. Due to the moderate solubility, the monohydrate often remains undissolved in the gut. So the result that I get, and some of my clients get, is bloating, stomach cramps, gas, diarrhea, fluid retention, especially during loading protocols that some people do, or suboptimal mixing. So roughly about 30% of users experience some level of stomach distress, some gain a couple of kilos of water weight. So, there are some issues that are associated with it. So the particle size can be so big, then you have fragile little people like myself that just cannot take it. and the negatives outweigh the positives. So that's why I just have not taken monohydrate. Let's talk about the brain bioavailability. So although the brain has creatine transporters at the blood-brain barrier, access for creatine from circulation is limited. So most all creatine monohydrate raises brain creatine by around 3 to 10% at best. And some users see almost no effect. And then you have the non-responder issue, where about 20 to 30 people simply don't feel the expected benefits, likely due to the transporter saturation or unique muscle fiber composition. So let's move on to CreGAAtine. So that's a creatine monohydrate with GAA or guanidinoacidic acid. So this is like a newer generation creatine formulation, basically created for better delivery. So it combines a creatine monohydrate with that guanidinoacidic acid, which is the immediate precursor your body naturally uses to make creatine. So this design leverages a multiple cellular transport pathways to get more creatine into the cell, into the muscles, and crucially across that blood-brain barrier. So this has 4 absorption pathways, not just the one with monohydrate. So as I mentioned, monohydrate is limited to CRT or SLC6A8. CreGAAtine enters the cell through the creatine transporter, that CRT, through the GABA receptors, the taurine receptors, and through passive diffusion. So no transporter needed for the latter. So even if your primary transporter is maxed out, GAA allows continued efficient absorption through these 3 other pathways. So quite effective. And then we have the muscle and brain creatine levels, which has quantitative superiority. So after 4 weeks, CreGAAtine increased muscle creatine stores by up to 16.9%. That's 8.5 times more than you'd get with monohydrate alone. So in the brain, CreGAAtine boosts creatine by 3.9 times in gray matter, which is nearly twice as much in the white matter compared to monohydrate. So for those seeking cognitive resilience, brain protective qualities, this is a game changer. And then you have number 3. It eliminates the non-responders. So because of the multiple absorption routes, CreGAAtine benefits nearly everyone, even those who saw results with who never saw results with monohydrates. And you don't get any bloating, you don't get any stomach upset because it is fully dissolved. There's no undigested particles. You get less fluid retention. You have more intracellular retention in the muscles instead of subcutaneous. So you don't get that creatine belly or GI side effects that can plague traditional users like myself. Number 5, strength and performance in lagging muscle groups. So athletic studies show that CreGAAtine results in 20% greater increase in strength, especially in muscle groups that are typically slower to respond. So this is not just more of the same or weak points become strong. Basically, your overall muscle balance can improve. But let's talk about the mechanism. Like, how does CreGAAtine work at every level? So most exogenous creatine is taken into the muscle via the CRT transporter. And once it's saturated, further delivery basically stalls. So the GAA is absorbed via GABA, taurine, and the passive diffusion, moving directly into the cells, where it's converted to creatine by the GAMT enzyme within your cells, which are your like energy producing compartments. And the result basically is continuous maximize creatine supply, even when your classic pathways plateau. And as I mentioned, that blood-brain barrier or that neuroprotection is enhanced. So that acts like a kind of a checkpoint, permitting only select molecules into the central nervous system. And creatine's main transporter is present at the barrier, but limited. The GAA, this precursor, however, uses alternative routes and is more efficiently converted to creatine within the brain itself. And studies show the result increases in brain creatine not being just higher, but functionally meaningful. So supporting your memory more, your focus more, neuroplasticity more, and cognitive recovery more across age groups. And then let's talk about the superior bioenergetics. So the muscles and neurons with higher creatine stores show better ATP regeneration, improved muscle contraction, greater fatigue resistance without any of the side effects, and even all muscle group delivery. So the dosing on CreGAAtine is a little bit different. It's usually a little bit lower. It's usually around 3 to 5 grams per day. I personally use anywhere between 4 and 6. There's no loading phase. I like to use it pre and post, and then on my non-training days, I just take it a couple of times throughout the day. People will cycle for about 12 weeks, take a couple of weeks off. In all honesty, I take it all year round and have done for quite a number of years because I want the brain protective qualities of it more than anything. So in the morning, I like to have, especially, if I'm traveling across different time zones, if I'm lacking in sleep, there's several things that I will do. I'll wake up to this concoction. I'll put hydrogen-rich tablets in some water. I will also put some methylene blue in there, or I use Leuco blue, actually, which has an extra electron. And I'll add CreGAAtine to it. And I find if I'm lacking in sleep, if I'm fatigued, I'm straight on point. I'm back to it, okay? So let's talk about, why is CreGAAtine the new standard? Well, I've just explained it works for nearly everyone. It's more effective, and this is an evolution where you only need to microdose. So more companies are actually using it in their pre-workouts because it only requires a smaller dose as opposed to a larger dose. So instead of having a 30-gram scoop or 28-gram scoop and you add in an extra 5, you're only adding an extra 2, which is usually 1 gram of GAA and 1 gram of creatine monohydrate together. The reason why you should have some B vitamins with it, and we do it in Unmatched in our supplement line, is that it does bring the homocysteine levels down from the GAA. So the GAA can raise homocysteine levels. Creatine decreases those homocysteine levels. So now you're at base. And then the B vitamins can bring your homocysteine levels below that baseline. So it actually is beneficial for you. So anyway, remember, this is for educational purposes only. These products have just been studied time again. So we actually put it to practical good use. So, the one thing that I absolutely love about CreGAAtine is that a lot of females that are concerned about bloating, about getting fluid retention as well, they absolutely love it as well. And I have my family members taking this because of the neuroprotective qualities. I'm not saying it's going to prevent dementia or Alzheimer's, but if we can protect our brain from a lot of the inflammation or inflammaging that we're dealing in this toxic environment, this toxic world that we're dealing with today, then why not indeed? So anyway, if you have any questions whatsoever about creatine or supplementation, or you just want to comment, head to any platform that you're listening to this podcast. Please do leave a comment. Please do share it with others. And if you do have any questions, please put them in the comment section as well. So that is it for this week's episode, all on creatine and CreGAAtine. Please come back next week. And this is Kris Gethin, and we are out.